Hello again. I'm Tripp Rogers. He's the Hall of Famer Mike Sheck. We are the Fantasy Sultans here for your Week 9 tricks and treats. As our podcast drops on Thursday, so that's how
Wait a minute.
got the skull,
I gotta get my
baby.
fantasy skeleton out of the closet right here.
That could be Mac next week after he poked the bear and he plays me this week, and he will. The old saying, thy cudgel in hand will smite thee. I am going to smite him this week. And I will gain vengeance for the Sultans after he dissed the Hall of Famer. But anyhow, that's more to come. Also, it's funny because our buddy, the MLWD, the Matt Lee department, rather upset that yours truly beat him, knocking him from the unbeaten ranks in
From
the
the
Best Buy
perch,
League.
yes.
And
Yeah.
so what is what is his reward? Plays me in the Sultans League this week. and he is, I mean, it's a good question because now you're getting into the point of the season where you could make mistakes in your lineup. And what really will happen is you could find more points on the bench than you have in the game. This is where the playing matchups comes into play. But again, part of it's luck. I mean, I mean, let's be realistic. A lot of, there's luck. There is luck involved in all of this. Let's go to, before we go to week 9, let's go to week 8. More injuries, last week.
Yeah, definitely. That's the case. Jacksonville wide receiver Christian Kirk, he's done for the season with a broken collarbone. Also saw Houston's wide receiver Stephon Diggs with an ACL. He's done for the year as well. Green Bay quarterback Jordan Love suffered a knee injury, a groin injury, I should say. And if he can't go this week, well, that's going to help the running game for Green Bay. Also, San Francisco running back Jordan Mason and wide receiver Deebo Samuel, they both had injuries and left the game last week. Good thing is they're on a bye this week. And well, what about the New York Jets? Yeah, stink. That's right. They should have had a get-right matchup last week. Instead, they lost to the 1-6 New England Patriots, the then 1-6 New England Patriots, with Drake May ruled out and a backup quarterback by the name of Jacoby Brissett in the lineup. It was a rough day for the New York Jets. I mean, they played well, but they just couldn't get it done when the time left in Greg Zuerlein. He missed a field goal, an extra point. Well, it was a 3-point game. So when you leave 4 points on the table to begin with, that's not good.
And the other part with the Zuerlein story is that that's the third game he has cost them this year with misses. Yeah. You go back to the Denver game. There was another game that he missed a couple of extra points and stuff. And oh, by the way, the Jets have announced he has a knee injury.
Yeah, knee. That's right.
Knee injury. He's on injured reserve.
Right.
And something tells me he's not coming back. But the Jets playing Thursday night this week. They got to make a decision on a kicker. So the Fantasy Sultans advice, do not pick a Jets kicker. You do not want a Jets kicker on your team. I don't care who it is. You do not want that juju on your roster because the Jets have just been god-awful this year. By the way, got to give credit where credit is due. How about the most surprising performance this year? Perennially draft awful Johnny I in the Fantasy Sultans League on top of the heap, 7-1. And I do believe his one loss was to the Hall of Famer.
Yes, that's right.
so I just want to mention that real quick, Got to give Johnny I some props, though. He's doing really well, and he does not listen to our podcast. So, we hope he loses terribly because, if you listen to our podcast, we kind of root for you, maybe a little bit, except when it comes to Mac. Let's talk real quick about this Anthony Richardson thing in
Yeah.
Indianapolis, because what is concerning here is this is a young quarterback who's being pulled. Last year, he was injured after 4 games. This is his first full season. We hope it will be.
Mm.
And he pulled himself out of the game for one play, be it. But something tells me there is a little more to this than meets the eye. His numbers were not anything great on Sunday. And it could be that Indianapolis wants to try and see if they can, Shane Steichen can create a spark with Joe Flacco, who has been really good coming in relief of Anthony Richardson.
Well, I mean, I'll say this. I mean, you're a running quarterback. I mean, you're a quarterback to begin with, but your uniqueness is running the ball, and yet you're getting tired and you're taking yourself out of the game. That's a head scratcher in my opinion. I don't think we've ever seen that where a quarterback takes himself out of a game because they're tired. I mean, I mean, yeah, you get winded, yeah, you get banged up, but tired?
You're the
No.
quarterback. You're the
Yeah,
quarterback.
and
If
a
you're
quarterback.
tired, don't call your number the next play. Drop back, throw a pass. I mean, very
Yeah.
simple.
But
Yeah.
he's been ineffective. He's been injury prone. Not the start. Last season had that injury. What was it? Maybe 4 or 5 games into the season was injured. Got injured again this season. It has not fared well for Indianapolis with their pick. And you know what? You're right. I think Joe Flacco definitely will give them the spark that they needed. And Joe Flacco has been a proven quarterback once before. We saw him in Cleveland. He got the job done there last season, and he's doing it this year for the Colts.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if Joe Flacco's available in your fantasy league, I pretty feel pretty confident in saying he's the guy you want to grab. Spot start definitely, because it's still in the bye. We're in the bye season. Although this week you only have 2 teams, but these are 2 teams that you got some players on. Pittsburgh and San Francisco off for week 9 in the NFL. Mike, we might as well start. Let's go import exports. You lead off, Hall of Famer.
Yeah, and it's funny because you and I kind of opening up the fourth wall here. We normally discuss our import exports before we jump on our podcast. This week, a little impromptu on the import export. So I'm going to start it off with all treats so far with our import exports and give you a quarterback that's flying under the radar. That's Bo Nix in Denver. He might be a rookie, but he's certainly not playing like one. 1,530 passing yards, 6 touchdowns, averaging 21 points per game over the last 4 weeks, and only 1 turnover in his last 6 games. Now, he has a matchup against Baltimore's defense, and that could be a shell of its former self, having been carved up by Jameis Winston. Nick's actually absolutely though should be rostered, and I think he's only currently rostered in about 14% of leagues, so he would be a nice pickup. All right, well, it's been difficult plucking running backs off the waiver wire this season, but there could be one that's helping you out sooner than later. I'm thinking that one is Jaylen Warren of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, entering week 8, Pittsburgh's been the second run heaviest team, only behind the Philadelphia Eagles. Warren returned from a knee injury in week 7 and played 5 fewer snaps than Najee Harris. In week 8, well, it was more Najee Harris, but you know what? I still think it's possible that the backfield becomes a 50-50 split at some point. So Warren would be a great pickup. As we continue with the imports, how about wide receiver Elijah Moore in Cleveland? Now, I joked with you last week about importing some Cleveland players. I said, what are we getting desperate over here? Well, you were right in picking up wide receiver Cedric Tillman. He had 7 catches for 99 yards, 2 touchdowns. And while Moore isn't producing at a rate as Tillman, I still think he is a good play because we've seen a jump in production and posting 26 points in the last 2 games. Winston first started the season. If that's any indication of what's to come, I think Moore is going to be useful to managers going forward. You know what? It's often we do not give love to the kickers on this show. You talked about Pat McAfee a little bit earlier. Well, how about two kickers that are really not getting the love, but getting it done? That's Austin Seibert in Washington and Jake Bates in Detroit. Now, Seibert continues to be a scoring machine for the Commanders, hitting 23 of 25 field goals and 19 of 19 on extra points. Thanks to a rejuvenated Washington offense, Austin Seibert is also getting plenty of kicks. Meanwhile, Jake Bates, he's been a unique kicker for Detroit. He's only kicked 11 field goals in 7 games, but his fantasy floor is definitely built on extra points. Bates has converted 27 of 28 point after attempts, 22 extra points in the last 4 games. And, well, Detroit scored 52 points last week. That's 7 touchdowns. If you do the math, that's 7 extra points. And you know what? The Bates Motel, as it is Halloween time, he's getting it done for Detroit. So that's my imports exports for this week. All treats and no tricks.
All treats and no tricks. Okay, I like that. All right.
Yep.
First of all, I want to go in the quarterback ranks. And, we talked about him a couple of weeks ago. And I think we mentioned him real quick last week, but we did not give it the full import oomph on this. Famous Jameis. Jameis Winston showed he can control this Cleveland offense. I think he's a must pick up if he's available in your leagues, simply because of the fact he gives you an option. And again, I'm talking to people like myself who have Josh Allen, who is facing a week 12 bye. You need to have a quarterback you're going to have to start. And he's a guy you want to pick up. I mean, famous Jameis was dropping dimes yet last week against Baltimore. And the Baltimore defense looked awful. I think Jameis Winston, now we know Jameis Winston has his ups and his downs, but his upside is much more. And again, spot start, he's a guy I would want to get. He is probably available in your league. You're looking for a quarterback. And again, maybe a streaming quarterback. He's a guy you're going to want to grab. All right. Running back, Mike, you did make a comment that running backs, few and far between, especially when you get to this time of the year. Most of them have been picked over. Most of the running backs have been gotten because people have scrambled to get them. But I'm going to throw a name which I have not mentioned in a while, and that's Rashawn Johnson for Chicago. Rashawn Johnson, I had early said, import him because Chicago was going to use him probably a little more because they weren't happy with their running backs. And then we said export him because he did not do anything and he kind of sat the bench. Well, guess what? He pops up back up on my list because of the fact he is kind of rejuvenated himself. And the Chicago offense, they need a running game. And why not Rashawn Johnson? He's available. Again, you're looking for somebody for a spot start. Chicago's schedule is favorable, so I would grab him. And again, the other part of this is he has had his bye. So again, this is somebody who you can add to your roster, use him as a starter a couple times and also if you have injuries. That's the other thing we have to think about. Last but not least, let's go into the wide receiver ranks. And we have talked about him a couple of times, but I want to spotlight him one more time in the imports because he's still available. He is still available. Keon Coleman of Buffalo.
Yeah.
He is getting better with each week. And now the news is Amari Cooper said this afternoon, he's out this week because of an injury. Keon Coleman's the guy who is, with Amari Cooper in the lineup still, Keon Coleman has kind of stepped up. And he has done really well with Buffalo. But again, he is still available in leagues. So he's another guy I would grab. You're right. All treats this week, no tricks, all imports, no exports. That's how we roll here on the Fantasy Sultans. All right. It is Halloween. I want to have a little fun with you, Mike. Okay? Because we are the Fantasy Sultans. We talk about lots of different things. We're going to talk about fantasy candy rankings.
Oh,
Best and worst. Okay. So
all
I'm
right.
gonna we didn't talk about this. I said I've got something surprising for you. So
Okay.
we are gonna have again for the fantasy candy draft, we're gonna bet the best and the worst. Okay. Best Halloween candy ranked. And by the way, I don't take credit on this one. This is something I picked up from the Athletic. So they're fantasy football guys. Just saying that. Okay. Nerds gummy clusters. The berry pack is the best candy ever. Okay. I don't necessarily agree. Reese's
No.
peanut butter pumpkins, not the peanut butter cups, but
Okay.
pumpkins. They're pretty good.
Okay.
Peanut butter M&Ms. M&Ms, of course, or peanut M&Ms, a staple of the Sultans draft diet. Twizzlers Rainbow. And Twizzlers, of course, you got to put them on there. And Snickers bars. Got to go. On the overrated category, Whoppers, Tootsie Rolls, and Three Musketeers. What do you think of that? What do you think of that?
Well, I mean, Whopper's okay. I'll agree with that. Three Musketeers now. I like Three Musketeers.
Okay.
But best candy, yeah, it's gotta be Reese's. I gotta
Okay.
put Hershey's on the list, and I'm a big Crunch guy. I do like a little Nestle's Crunch there.
Oh, Nestle's Crunch. Crunch. Okay, they rank 25. I should say they rank 25. Snickers, Reese's peanut butter cups were number 10. Junior Mints made the list at 13. They're very refreshing.
I was just gonna say very refreshing.
Very refreshing. Nestle's Crunch was 15. 100 grand was 16. I like them.
Okay.
Kit Kat bar. You can't go wrong with that.
No.
Butterfinger. Almond Joy. Yeah, that's another good one. Almond Joy. All right. The worst
sometimes
Halloween
you feel
candy.
like a nut, sometimes you don't. Mounds.
That's true. Yes, you're right. Okay. Worst Halloween candy. Okay.
All right.
Necco wafers.
Okay.
Are you sure it's not street chalk? Circus peanuts. I mean, orange colored styrofoam, anyone? Good and plenty. Candy corn. Bit O Honey and Mary Jane at number 6. Also on this list, Smarties, Wax Anything, Black Licorice.
Yeah.
Double Bubble. I never liked Double Bubble. Bazooka was my fave. Sugar Babies. They're like Milk Duds if they were sandy and overly sugary. Jolly Ranchers, flavored Tootsie Rolls.
I like the Jolly Rancher.
Chocolate Kisses. We got to have a way to make it relatable to Halloween, because we are the Fantasy Sultans. It is Halloween.
And I got the candy bowl right here.
You got the candy.
I do.
Wait, hold it up. I want to see.
All right, so I got the candy bowl. So I got the Crunch.
I did. No. I want to see. Full size.
It's not full size. They're
not full size. Come on. We are the Fantasy
they're
Sultans.
not full size, but I got one for the Carolina Panthers, the Butterfinger.
Sure that's not the New York Giants?
Maybe we'll put them in the category too.
There you go. That's right. Yeah. Well, it's Halloween, so we're giving trick or treats. So we're giving you full-size treats, like full-size candy bars. We're giving you all the things you need to win your league, except for Mac, because, well, he's in our league. We don't want him to win. We want him to finish last. I want him to finish behind. I want Matthew to finish ahead of him, because if I don't, I have to live with Matthew and have to deal with it all the time. So I'd rather have Mac finish behind. Yes, Mac, I actually said that. But we're hopefully going to have Mac on so we can tell him to his face he stinks. And rip him. He says, I can rip him. You can't, because he beat you in fantasy football. That's not the way it works, buddy.
And if you like the prop experience, go ahead and email us, fantasysultans@gmail.com. You want to see more props on this show? Fantasysultans@gmail.com.
Yes, we need more props. And again, we'll help you. It's week 9 already of the NFL season. We're about at the halfway pole. Coming up next week, don't forget, it's the game we're paying Germany back for. The Giants and the Carolina Panthers. The Butterfinger Bowl in Germany. That'll be the highlight of week 10. We have too much fun. We really have too much fun on this show.
We really do.
But again, you guys make it go. You mentioned the email address, Mike. It is, of course, fantasysultans@gmail.com. Don't forget my other podcast, Tripp's Take. Going to talk a little bit about the sports equinox and also going to talk about the World Series. And that's what we're going to be talking about, and also Halloween memories, since the podcast drops the same time as this podcast. It's available on Spotify for podcasters and YouTube. Just search for Tripp's Take. Like the music of the 60s, 70s, and 80s, you can listen to WTRSradio.com. He is the Hall of Famer. I am Tripp Rogers. Mike Sheck, I should say his name. He's the Hall of Famer, Mike Sheck. I'm Tripp Rogers. And together, we help you. We give you the roadmap to the best houses, the houses with the full size candy bars, the houses that will fill your sack with tricks and treats. No tricks. Not the houses that give you toothbrushes.
Necco wafers.
Necco wafers, too. We are the Fantasy Sultans.
And you are not.